Want to know what your dog is thinking?
Have a challenging dog behavior you need help with?
The Dish on Dogs is your source for all your canine questions.
Improve your relationship with your dog and deepen your understanding of your furry friend. Right here on the Dish on Dogs.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dish on Dogs podcast. I'm your host, Jackie Bondanza. I'm here today with one of our best employees, Danielle. She's the manager at our corporate store in Ronkonkoma, and she's also the director of training for our franchise system. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We thought it would be a good time to talk a little bit about the Temperament Test evaluation. That's really at the heart of what we do at Houndstown and why this makes us so different, why this is so unique to us and our process here at Houndstown. And then we've got a couple customer questions. If we have time, we'll get to them at the end, that have to do with dog management and why some dogs come into Houndstown and behave a certain way, oftentimes better than how they behave at home. So Danielle's the perfect person to provide some insight on that. She's been working here for over 6 years now and has helped us take care of probably over 1 million visitors in that
crazy
6-year time frame. And you've seen the evolution of now 17 locations and gone out and you've met all types of dogs and people. And so you've got a great insight into the operation of the Houndstown business. So let's start out by talking a little bit about the temperament test and what is it? Why is it at the heart of what we do?
Right. So before any dog starts to come to either daycare or boarding for any Houndstown, they do need to do what's called a temperament evaluation. This is basically just like a 15-minute appointment. Takes about 15 minutes, just a meet and greet, so we can meet the customer, the dog. We have the customer fill out some paperwork, and we also, what we do is one of the staff members will take the new dog, and we bring out another dog in our care to meet the other dog on leash. Quick 30-second interaction, and we're basically just looking for any overt signs of aggression to make sure that they're not overtly aggressive to the staff members or to any other dogs. We also answer some questions for any of the customers that they have about our services.
And so before that, typically we do a phone screening.
Yes.
So new inquiry comes in. Talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah, so before the dog even comes into the building, whenever we get a phone call from a customer, we do kind of a little screening on the phone. We ask basic information about the dogs, the age, the weight, the breed of the dog. Not that matters because we don't breed discriminate, but just so we know what's coming in the door. And we also ask if they're friendly towards, if they've ever had any interactions with any other dogs. Most of the time, they've been to dog parks or they have had interactions with other dogs. So we just make sure that all the interactions that they have had with other dogs have been positive.
Right. And then if the customer answers all those questions, then we invite them in for the evaluation.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so as long as they answer all the questions, we do require spay and neuter by a certain age. So as long as all of that and they meet all of our requirements for the vaccinations, then we welcome them to come in and set up an appointment for the evaluation with us.
Okay, and then so a customer comes in for the evaluation, and I know this happens somewhat often where the customer comes in and either the dog is nervous or the customer's nervous or they're both nervous.
Yeah, so a lot of the times they're nervous. A lot of times the dogs get nervous here because they kind of, if they've never been here before, they don't know the dogs don't know what to expect. They don't know if it's a veterinary office. They don't know what we are, so they don't. The stranger is taking them and we're petting them, and so they kind of get a little nervous. So we always ask the customer to kind of sit back and kind of let us take care of the evaluation. Oftentimes customers feel that they're helping by trying to help us, but it's best if they just sit down. We have them fill out some paperwork to keep them occupied, and then we take the dog for the evaluation.
And the evaluation is done right in front of the customer in the lobby. But what happens a lot of times is, especially dogs with separation anxiety or that are more fearful, us as humans tend to project on our dogs a lot. And we create this sometimes toxic, unbalanced relationship with them where they become completely dependent on us. And Houndstown is a place where we want to allow a dog to kind of break that dependency, because they shouldn't be that dependent on us. It should be a more balanced relationship. So I've seen it, many times when customers come in and the dog is really anxious and the customer's really anxious. So we need to separate that bond. So we just ask the customer to take a seat and to remove him or herself from the interaction. And that is when a lot of times a dog really comes out of his shell.
Right.
And gains confidence, especially when they see the other dog.
Yes. And even sometimes we might even ask the customer to even step out of the lobby when we do the interaction, just because certain dogs are a little bit more dependent on their owner, like you were saying. So we just want to see the dog being a dog, and we want to let the dog be the dog here. And usually once the owner kind of is back and kind of a little out of the way, like you said, we see them open up out of their shell and actually be a dog.
Right. And that's really the best moment. And that's the first indication to us about how the dog is actually going to act and react in a group and in our facility. So sometimes it is necessary to create that separation. It's like a child going to kindergarten for the first day, right. And the child is often so used to being attached to the parent that it's just a different change of pace for the child when they get dropped off at kindergarten. Yeah. But the parent has to leave, and the child has to be able to develop his own relationships and social skills and have that interaction with other kids without us humans and owners completely, in intervening in that all of the time. Right.
And even when the dogs come in the back, they're completely different when they're in the lobby with their owners. Even when after the evaluation, when they drop them off for daycare, it's kind of like once they're in the back with all of their friends, their dog friends, they're a completely different dog than when they're with their parents. So,
and we've seen, I know just over the 7 or 8 years I've been here, I've seen so many dogs come in that, some of them are really, really shy and fearful.
Yeah.
And the transformation that can happen within a group. And again, as humans, we can't really provide that for the dog. We can provide everything else. We cannot replicate the dog's experience interacting with other dogs. And oftentimes that is an absolute key component to bringing a fearful dog out of his shell.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the times we'll get nervous dogs that come in for their first day, and they're super nervous and they're very timid in the group, but we build the group up around them here, so we won't ever just throw a dog in a group and kind of hope for the best. We always build the pack up around the dog. So we want to make sure the dog's as comfortable as possible. Mm-hmm. And it's really amazing to watch them kind of come out of their shell, start playing, them making relationships with the other dogs. It's kind of funny when they start coming for daycare and they come every day. They really form friendships with the other dogs, and they see throughout the day, throughout the week, really.
Yeah, and it's nice. And I don't know over the years if anything comes to mind for you off the top of your head about customers who have given us feedback about how much coming to regular daycare has helped in the home, right?
Yeah, so we've gotten so much feedback of how it helps in the home because they're more balanced at home. They don't have all of this energy. They're burning off a lot of energy while they're here. So they come home, they pass out. It's called the Houndstown hangover. But they have more of a balanced dog. The dog's used to being around other dogs and also being around other people besides their owner. So they're with the staff all day long as well. So it helps kind of balance out the dog and kind of get them used to being in social situations, because that's what really helps a dog and makes them more social, really. Right.
And we were talking earlier about one of our customers, that's one of our best customers, Brooklyn, and her mom, Alexis, and how Alexis always tells us, how funny it is that Brooklyn, whenever she comes in, she basically doesn't even say goodbye.
Yeah.
And she just wants to get in the back, and, how comforting that is to her, knowing that she can go off to work and have a good day without worrying about the dog.
Right.
And then we're also talking about how no one else can clip her nails besides one of our staff members here. So how have you seen the dogs build bonds and relationships with the staff like Brooklyn?
Oh yeah. So they come in every day, and obviously we're happy to see them, but the more we get to spend time with them, throughout the day, we're in and out of all the playrooms. So we do create bonds with all of the dogs, and it's kind of good because at first, when they first start coming to daycare, some of them are even reluctant to leave their parents at the door because they have that separation. they have that bond with their parents, and they kind of have a little separation anxiety with them. So the more they come, the more they get kind of used to coming in the back, and it's kind of amazing to see, like, they'll come in the door, they'll jump on us and greet us, and they won't even look back really to their parents because they just want to get in the back and play. So it's amazing kind of to see that transformation of them being super nervous and reluctant to even leaving their parents on drop off, and then just to running in the back. A lot of our regulars know what room exactly to go to, their regular room. So they'll go right to their room. They know exactly where they're supposed to go. So it's kind of cool to see that transformation happen over time with coming.
And why do you think that dogs like coming here so much? And why do you think that, what does our staff do differently that is fostering that type of positive environment?
Yeah, so we basically I think we just let the dogs be dogs here. So they can do not whatever they want, but they have fun. We build the groups up, so we group them all by size and temperament. So like the crazier, more hyper dogs get to play all day long with their friends, and we just let them be dogs, and we're not really interjecting ourselves too much into the pack either, because we're in and out of the playrooms all the time, making sure everyone's okay, and cleaning up after them and just making sure they're doing well, but we're not really interfering with them playing or anything. So we don't interject ourselves. So we just kind of let them be dogs. So I think that's what. Yeah,
and that's kind of like Mike always says, that at home there's structure, there's boundaries, there's, especially when dogs are on a leash, they're restricted.
Right.
It's not natural for them. We're constantly asking things of them in our homes. Don't get on the couch. Get on the couch.
Yeah. We don't ask them to sit. We don't ask them to lay down. We don't ask them for paw or anything like that. They just do. They play. They hang out with the other dogs. Even the more mellow dogs, they might not be playing, but they're just interacting. They're walking around, and that even gets them like mentally stimulated as well. So.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of psychological stimulation that goes on here beyond the physical. And, it's like a child being able to play with other kids at recess. It's just having that recreational time just builds a lot of skills for the dog. And, we like to say we help make pet ownership possible. And I think that the way that we do that is by providing pet care in the way that the dog needs pet care. And then when the dog goes home, like you mentioned, they get the Houndstown hangover, and they're a lot of the behavior issues that people are seeing in the home, separation anxiety, jumping, chewing, barking, are subdued to some degree. And I've seen it with my own dogs.
Yeah, I was just about to say, my own dog, I've been bringing my dog Squirt here ever since he was 4 months old. So I got him at 4 months old. He's been coming to work with me all the time. He comes every day. He plays with all the other dogs, and he's been the best puppy I've ever had. We've never had any issues with chewing, anything really. He's been so even tempered just because, and I think it's because he's been in this environment his whole life. He's super social. He's able to be around any dog, no matter the size, the age of it. So he's able to be around other people besides me, and there's not so much separation with us. So, and I credit that to being here all the time as a puppy.
Right. Yeah, the separation anxiety is definitely hugely helped by regular doggy daycare, and that's certainly something we're experiencing now. As the pandemic and quarantine and all of that, and everybody's working from home. As people come back to get back into the office, they've been home with their dogs sometimes for up to a year now.
Yeah.
So, we're always kind of educating and encouraging customers to keep their dog in a regular daycare routine, even if they might be working from home, because it is so important for the dog to maintain access to that, and also to prevent separation anxiety when eventually, our customers do go back to work.
Yeah, exactly. So with the pandemic, I've seen a little bit more separation anxiety than usual.
Yeah.
So we've had a huge influx of new puppies and a lot of people are getting dogs during quarantine because why not?
Right.
But I've seen a lot of separation anxiety, more than usual. But I think that's just because they're home all the time. There's really nowhere to go, unfortunately. But that's why us being open, I think, really helps, and keeping them in that schedule. You don't want to break the dog's schedule. If you could, just keep them in that schedule, and that will keep them more balanced.
Right. Even if it's 1 or 2 days.
Yeah,
a week,
exactly.
Once every couple of weeks, just to keep them having that opportunity.
Right.
So over the past 6 years you've been here, I'm sure you've seen dogs that maybe grow out of doggy daycare.
Yes.
So this is a question from Madeline at our Detroit location, and she wanted to know, can dogs grow out of doggy daycare?
Yeah, so they definitely can. Just like humans, as dogs get older, their temperament changes. So we keep a close eye on all of our dogs that are with us. It isn't uncommon. I mean, it's not too common,
Right.
but it does happen where dogs will grow out of daycare. They start off as a puppy and they're playing all the time, and then they kind of get a little older and don't really want too much interaction. So it definitely does happen.
Yeah, and I think we've got something here called the old man group.
Yes.
I don't know if we still have that, but
We do.
so typically we don't like to move dogs around in groups too much. Their
Right.
groups are set, and for a couple of years, until their temperament changes or they enter a new phase in life, they should be in the same relative group, right? And
Yeah.
it makes it easier for the operation of the facility as well.
Yeah. So we keep them in the same group, but if we do notice a dog's not really wanting to play as much as they used to, down the line we will move them into maybe a more mellow group and see if that group will work out for them. Most of the time it does. We have like you said, the old man group. They kind of just chill with each other. They don't do much. They walk around, they sniff each other's butts, but but that's
old men do.
Yeah, that's what old men do. But we have them do that. We move them into kind of a more mellow group. Like I said earlier, we do group by size and temperament. So we wouldn't put probably, unless a 10-year-old dog has got a lot of energy, but
Right.
with like a young puppy that just wants to play all the time because they don't want to play as much.
Right. And sometimes an older dog that, as dogs get older, they can get arthritis and
Right.
other like minor medical issues that the owner may not necessarily be aware of. And of course we wouldn't be aware of. So, and a dog like that might get annoyed by a
Yeah.
puppy. So
Constantly wanting to play with them and
Right.
pester them. So
I think in more established locations that have been open longer, like Ronkonkoma, that's a little bit easier because we know all the dogs. We have a certain capacity that's coming into the facility every day. Most of our customers have been coming for years and years, and the groups are completely established. But in a newer location like Detroit, you're still building your groups, and that's going to happen for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And it is possible that, in a year or 2 or 3, those dogs that came to you initially when maybe they were 5 or 6, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to be 8 or 9, and you might need to form, an old man group.
yes.
So it's always good to reassess the groups, every couple months.
Right. Yeah,
and just keep a general eye on the every day.
Yeah, we just like to make sure each dog is getting the most out of daycare while they're here, and we want to make sure all the dogs are happy and comfortable and kind of doing what they want in the groups. And so, like you said, we do have to reassess the group sometimes. It's not too often.
Right.
Like most of the time, they're in the same groups as usual. But once in a while, when temperaments change, dogs get a little older. Like you said, some medical issues that you may not notice at home will kind of start to pop up. But we just reassess the groups and we put them where they're most comfortable and where they'll get the most out of being at doggy daycare.
Right. And even after an old man group, sometimes dogs will spend a couple years in the old man group, and then they get to 10 or 11 and they really don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
Because it is a very active environment, and it becomes not the best environment for them anymore. So it definitely can happen. We always say our facilities are made for, a dog that's anywhere from 4 months old to 6 or 7, and they're generally very energetic and they're playful, and they can't wait to get in and just interact.
Yeah.
There are a couple exceptions, but for the most part, once a dog outgrows that phase of life, they tend to tolerate the interaction less and less, and of course that means that they're less and less happy. So there's no point in having a dog here and putting him in a group if he really just wants to sleep all day.
Yeah,
and some dogs, when they get older, that's all they want to do.
Yeah, and besides the physical interactions that they're having, it's just a lot mentally and psychological for the dog. So the older dogs that are like 10, 11, they'll get exhausted just from doing that. So it might not be the best. We do it on a case-by-case basis because some older dogs are just as spry as like the little 6-month-old pups that we have. So it's really, we just keep an eye on each individual dog's
Yeah, and we have a very open and honest line of communication with our
Yes.
customers, right? So anytime there's any concerns about the dog, if a dog does get injured in a group, it's not uncommon for dogs to get injured. Based on the interactive nature. If we're concerned about a dog, seems like he's not enjoying the group anymore, we always communicate that to the customer. So it's never a surprise when we say, Fido doesn't seem like he likes daycare anymore.
Right. Yeah, we keep, our big thing here is keeping an open line of communication with the customer. We want the customer to trust us, and the only way to do that is just by keeping them in the loop with everything. So if we notice the dog's acting weird a certain day, they're kind of a little off, we'll let the customer know. Maybe there's something that happened at home that we weren't aware about or something. But we always want to keep the customer in the loop about what's going on with the dog, so they're aware of how they're doing.
Yeah. And over the years too, we've had some customers come in and their dogs throw up things, right?
Yes.
They throw up socks. Or,
we've had many things thrown up.
Yeah, we've had some unmentionable.
Yeah, we don't want to get into some of that, but like they won't even know. Like we like to keep about the dog's mental state and also about what they're doing physically. So if they do throw up something, that the customer might not have even realized they got into that at home.
That's exactly right. Yes. So they didn't realize it. And so sometimes then we'll say, Lily was here and she threw up a sock.
Yeah.
And, we'll have these conversations. Yeah. What did the sock look like? Was it two socks or one
most
sock?
of the times we'll save it and show them. So
yeah, that's
a little gross, but
too far. But and that way, so we help. We're not just a place where the dog is coming and getting dropped off. We're almost like co-parenting with the owner, really, and helping keep the dog. A lot of times, especially if people are they're out at work 50, 60 hours a week. They don't necessarily have the time to observe their dog at home. Is my dog limping? Is he not eating? Right. So we can provide that information.
Yeah, we could see if they're doing something out of the ordinary that, like you said, they're not home, so they wouldn't really catch on to if they're favoring a certain leg or something like that, or if they seem just like a little off. We can monitor that and let them know about that when they're not home.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Madeline, hopefully that answers your question. Dogs can grow out of doggy daycare, although it's kind of rare.
Yeah, pretty rare.
All right, everybody, we're going to take off. Thanks for watching. We're on every Monday night at 8 o'clock. You can find us on the Dish on Dogs podcast on Facebook. You can also find us on our YouTube channel, The Dish on Dogs, and iTunes, Spotify, and all your other typical podcast platforms. We will see everybody next Monday at 8 o'clock.